This week I had an epiphany about self-care and I want to share it with you. Hey guys, happy Friday. Welcome back to Fearless Fridays. Today is Friday, September 17th. This is episode 103 of Fearless Fridays. As always, I welcome you to the show, whether it's your first time watching or you're a return watcher. Welcome, welcome, welcome back. So this week I had an epiphany about self-care and I want to share it with you. I was talking to a client earlier this week and she was talking to me about all of the things that she's balancing. She's balancing her career. She's balancing being a good wife. She's balancing being a good mother. And she has a desire to have balance in all of these spaces, that work-life balance that a lot of people struggle with. And she was asking me, how do I balance all these things? How do I forgive myself when I drop the ball, when I drop the ball at work, when I feel like I'm dropping the ball at home, when I feel like something is always taking a back seat to something else? How do I balance these things? How do I forgive myself? And I had an epiphany in the moment and I just said something. Well, first I said what I said, which I'm about to say to you in a second, but I said what I said and then I had the epiphany. And what I said to her was, grace is a form of self-care. And I was like, and we both stopped. She was like, wow. And I said, wow. And I was like, write that down, write that down. And I had to write it down myself. Grace is a form of self-care. We talk so much about showing other people grace, learning to show other people grace, learning to be kind always. There's that meme that goes around all the time that someone is always fighting a battle that you don't know about. So be kind always. And basically that's a form of showing people grace because you never know what people are going through. So we learn how to show our husbands and our wives and our children and our girlfriends and our boyfriends grace. We learn how to show our employees grace, show our family members grace, show our friends grace. But how often do we talk about and how often do we acknowledge the importance and the need of showing ourselves grace? Of recognizing that we are all human, which means we are all flawed. And in the midst of showing other people grace, we need to show ourselves grace. I really, really believe that that is a form of self-care. Showing yourself grace is a form of self-care. I really believe that. And it was such an epiphany when I said it that we both had to pause. We both had to pause and really, really think about it. And I think it's important to know the difference between showing yourself grace and being lazy or making excuses for yourself, because you know yourself well enough to know when you have done the best you can. You know yourself well enough to know when you really, really reached for the mountaintop, to know when you really, really worked as hard as you possibly could, to know you really, really exhausted all the possibilities that you had for yourself in that moment, at that time, in that day. You know when you've worked really hard. You know when you've done everything that you can do, and you know when you haven't. And the interesting thing about showing people grace is I've said in the past, don't allow your grace to make you someone else's doormat, which basically means that you can show someone grace and show them grace and show them grace. But after a while, your grace may be taken advantage of, and that person begins to recognize, oh, she's going to give me grace, he's going to give me grace, and they start to just treat you however, and you become their doormat because you're constantly showing them grace. So you don't want to allow your grace, you don't want to let your grace make you someone else's doormat. And when it comes to showing yourself grace, you don't want to allow your grace for yourself to let you off the hook for being lazy when you know you're not working hard, when you know you're not doing everything you can do, when you know you're not really rising to the occasion, when you know you're really not showing up as best you can. So when you know you're BSing it, that's not grace. When you're letting yourself off the hook for constantly giving yourself or giving everybody else BS, that's not grace. That's laziness and making excuses. And you know what that is for yourself. But grace is when you know you've worked hard. You know you've worked hard at the job. You know you've worked hard at home. You know you've worked hard with your spouse, with your significant other, with your children. You know you have worked hard. You know, with your friends, you know you've worked hard. You know you've given what you can give. And it still maybe wasn't enough for your own liking. When you know that you've given what you can give, you know you've worked at the fullness of your capacity, and it still didn't reach the mountaintop that you wanted to reach, that's the moment where you can show yourself some grace and say, you know what, Tryphena, you did the best you could do. You did all you could do. And now you're gonna rest and you're gonna show yourself some grace. And you're gonna give yourself a little pass and you're gonna go back in there tomorrow. And so that's what I want to urge us to think about and remember. Remember that grace is a form of self-care, because when you've worked hard, when you've done all you can do and you still didn't reach that pinnacle, rather than beating yourself up, because beating yourself up is not going to help you. It's not going to help you reach higher tomorrow. Actually loving yourself and caring for yourself and speaking kind words to yourself and showing yourself grace is the thing that could propel you forward even further the next time you try. So, in the midst of all the talk about showing other people grace, I think we need to really, really remember to show ourselves grace, and remember that showing ourselves grace is a form of self-care. It is a form of loving ourselves. It's a form of caring for ourselves. It's a way that we can fill our own cup, even if nobody else is filling it. There's a way to fill your own cup by showing yourself grace, showing yourself love, showing yourself care. And I think showing yourself grace is a way to fill your own cup, and could propel you even further tomorrow or next week or next year or the next time the next time you show up for whatever that thing is. Showing yourself grace could really, really be the thing that propels you forward. And it is a form of self-care. The epiphany that I had this week. So that's what I wanted to share with y'all this week. I hope everyone is enjoying September. I think the temperatures are cooling down. They're definitely cooling down a little bit here in LA. And yeah, show yourself some grace. And also remember, I'm still fundraising for my film, Solomon's Mood. If you want to know more about Solomon's Mood, you can find out more here on my YouTube channel or on my Instagram page or on my Facebook page. There's a lot of ways you can find out about Solomon's Mood. So check it out and support if you can. As always, the euphoria of fearlessness trumps the comfort of staying safe. Show yourself some grace. That's a way you can try to care for yourself this weekend, is by showing yourself some grace. I'll talk to y'all next week. Happy Friday.